Hi everybody and welcome to Knife Rev. Today we're going to take a look at the Condor Mini Bushlore. Alright, so once again this is the Condor Mini Bushlore. Let's get some specs out of the way. The overall length is 6.25 inches. The blade length is 3 inches. Blade thickness is 1/8. The steel is 1075 and it is a Scandi grind and a spear point design, and it does come with a leather sheath, and also the handles are made out of hardwood. Alright, so let's take a look at the build quality of the knife. Now you have to keep in mind that this is a $33 knife, and for 33 bucks Condor does a very nice job. I think some of their knives, and I've had a few others, it's the same thing. They managed to put out a pretty good product for a pretty good price. So let's get into it. And there's no grind marks on either side of the blade. It's finished off very well. There's a little scuff mark over here if you can see it. That's just from me using it. Looking at the plunge grinds, it's a little bit off on the right side. It's a little lower than the left side, but that's not a problem, you know, and I actually see that kind of stuff on much more expensive knives. So it's passable. And looking at the tip, it's done very well. It's symmetrical. The grinds are done evenly, so that's nice. And looking at the finish of the handle, it's you can feel a little bit of the grain, but it's not a big problem. You can if it bothered you, you can put sandpaper to it. The pins themselves, these two are flush. This one is flush, but then on this side I can feel a little bit of the pin protruding on here. It's not a problem. You can also fix that if it bugged you. And you know, overall finish of the knife is done very well, given that this is a $33 knife. Alright, so looking at the ergonomics, the handle is finished very nice. The shape of it is very nice. It's contoured in the middle, sort of narrow on the front, a little bit thicker in the middle, and a little bit narrow on the back again. It is a 3-finger hold and very comfortable. You can actually get a nice grip on it. I cut up and was whittling some wood with this thing earlier on, and it was very comfortable, and it does cut very well. So a very capable little knife. If you like whittling or just doing some minor tasks with wood, this thing does a very nice job. I was surprised how well it did. So as far as the ergonomics go, and the handle is very comfortable for a 3-finger hold. Now the blade itself is finished at a 90-degree angle. I didn't try to strike a ferro rod, so I don't feel much sharpness here. So let's give it a try and see how it does. Alright, seems to throw pretty decent sparks. Oh, it's not bad. The overall length of the knife is 6.25 inches with a 3-inch blade, and it feels very light, but it's very comfortable and fits well in the hand for a 3-finger hold. So let's take a quick look on the scale, and just curious of what this thing weighs. .75 ounces. That is pretty light for a knife this size, and with this kind of a grip that is very positive, very easy and comfortable to use. I've used this just testing it out on some wood, and I had no fatigue, and it really was surprised how well it did working on wood. So 2.75 ounces, that's a very nice small knife to carry. So this knife comes with a leather sheath, and if you've ever seen some of Condor's leather sheaths, it makes me wonder how they do it, how they manage to sell their knives for so cheap and still get a pretty good quality sheath. This particular sheath is typical to what other Condor knives that I've had. It's done very well. It's simple, you know, there's nothing fancy about it, but the finish is done very well, and the stitching is done very well, and the quality of leather it's solid. I mean, this thing is pretty thick, and it should last you quite a while. And the nice thing about it also is that, you know, you have an ample belt loop that you can pass a fairly large belt through there, and the quality of the finish is done very nicely. The fit of the knife on the sheath is very positive. You're not going to lose it. I've shaken it around. This thing is not going to come out. So also the nice thing about it is when this thing rides on your belt, your belt line would be there. It's really not riding that high above the belt, which is something that I like. I like the knives that are ride lower on the belt, so it's not poking you around when you're sitting or moving around. And this has a very nice setup the way it comes from the factory. So this knife came pretty sharp from the factory. Didn't have to do any touch-ups when I started using it. It's pretty sharp right from the factory. At least this copy is. Looking at the pros of this knife, the first thing is that it's 33 bucks. You're going to have a hard time finding something that's, unless you get something like a Mora, which those are excellent budget knives also. But for 33 bucks and you want something that's not a Mora, this is hard to beat. You're going to get a pretty decent steel, fairly nice finish, wood handles, and on top of that you're going to get a sheath that is not a throwaway. This thing is very nice quality for what it is, and I would not feel any need to change it unless you don't like leather, to make a change. And most knives that you get, probably the leather sheath alone would come close to 33 bucks, not including the knife. So overall, for $33, I think you're getting a very nice bargain. And if you enjoy this type of knife where it's a lightweight, short, and kind of a classic look with wooden handle, this thing would fit the bill, and definitely you want to take a look at one of these. Now, as far as the cons on the knife, at least on this particular model, I find very few. Yeah, the plunge going is a little off, but that's no big deal. It's definitely serviceable and workable. It's not off terribly. And like I said, you'd find that kind of discrepancy on much more expensive knives. So that's not a problem. And the only thing is maybe a little bit more attention to finish. That it's not it doesn't have the smooth transitions and finish as more expensive knives. But then again, this is 33 bucks, and it's going to be hard to get something that's better than this unless you go to something like a Mora. But then again, you're not getting a wood handle, and a slightly different type of knife, but still they're still quality knives. It's just that it's not going to be like this, and it's not going to be with a pretty decent sheath. So the cons are very small on this knife. Maybe a little bit on the finish, which some of it you can fix yourself, because you can definitely take some sandpaper and iron out these little kinks. And other than that, I can't find anything to complain about. Like I said, this is a very nice budget knife and would service you well if you chose to get one. So again, this is the Condor Mini Bushlore, a budget bushcraft knife that, like I said, if you don't have a lot of money or just don't want to spend a lot of money, it's definitely worth a look. And for 33 bucks, you're getting a knife that's very well executed, and a sheath that a lot of other knife makers in this price range won't even offer, if you enjoy leather. So thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.